Are you a recent college grad and wondering why your resume isn't getting you enough interviews? Well, maybe you've got bad formatting. Stay tuned for the worst resume formatting mistakes. Hi, I'm Bill Cicchino and this is Best Job Tips. Thanks for tuning in. If you're a job seeker or you think you might be a job seeker in the near future, please subscribe below, click the bell so you'll know when we're doing these videos, and give us a like if you think this stuff makes sense. If you're a recent grad and you've done your resume for the very first time and you're wondering why you're not getting called in for a lot of interviews, well, your content may be great, but maybe your formatting isn't what it should be. Maybe you've made some of the biggest formatting mistakes you can make on a resume. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Let's have a look. So here is the resume of Ollie the dog. Ollie's my dog, and I cannot believe he made a resume this bad. But just the same. The first thing you want to remember when you're sending out your resume to whether it's a large company or a medium-sized company, even small companies, almost all of them have an applicant tracking system, an ATS. And that system receives your resume when you upload it, and it parses it. Parsing it means it fills out from your resume all those questions that they ask you when you're applying. You know how frustrating it is. You upload your resume when you're applying for a position, and then they ask you to fill out all those questions again. And you're thinking, well, didn't they just get it from my resume? Well, most of the time they do, but the reason they ask you to fill out all those questions is because of the exact reason we're talking about. A resume like this will get rejected. There's no way this resume would get accepted by just about any applicant tracking system I've ever heard of. And okay, look, I've taken every formatting mistake you can pretty much make on a resume, included them all onto this one, but they are all missteps on resume formatting that I have seen. I see all the time. So let's enlarge this and look at Ollie in a little bit more detail. Okay, that's too large. There we go. So the first thing you want to notice about this resume is, aside from the fact that it's completely formatted incorrectly, and I guess here is a good point to make a caveat. There is no absolute perfect, this is the only way to do it format, but there is a general model format that varies somewhat, but not to a large degree. But let's take a look at some of the major mistakes on this resume that people can make. First and foremost, the photo. Never add a photo to your resume. You're supposed to be winning an interview, or at least enticing the recruiter to bring you in for an interview from your education and your experience, not your looks. Now, unless you are a model, or let's say an actor or an entertainer, you never put your photo on your resume. And frankly, even those types of positions, if you're an actor, let's say, or an entertainer, it's not even in this form. You would have a headshot and then your resume on the back of it. But there's another reason why you don't want to put your photo on there. I know many, frankly, almost all the corporate recruiters that I have as clients would dismiss a resume out of hand that had a photo on it. And that's because of equal employment opportunity laws. We hire not based on a person's appearance or their race or their ethnicity or their gender. And when you give a hiring manager, or frankly anyone in the company, here, review this resume, and they can already see all that information, you're just inviting trouble. So that's just another reason why you just don't put that on there. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, but I'm just so good looking. Well, of course, you can always add a link to your LinkedIn profile under your contact information if you really want someone to take a look and see what you look like. But of course, make sure that you have a very strong LinkedIn profile. Okay, the next thing we'll take a look at here is the name. And this is probably going to jump up. Yeah, it did. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having your name a little larger, okay? But you don't want to make it gigantic. There's just no point in that. And while we're talking about font size. Also, you do not want to switch fonts. You want to have the standard same font, whatever that may be. And it should be something like Arial or Calibra, something that's pretty standard. You'll notice this resume, we have a font here, a different font here, a different font here. You just can't do that. You'll also notice that the contact information is misplaced. It's down here, okay? In the sidebar, which there is almost no reason, particularly for a recent graduate, to have a sidebar, but we'll get to that. But the reason why you want to make sure that your name and your contact information are in the same place at the top of your resume is all focused on keeping in mind you are writing your resume for corporate recruiters. And they are not spending a lot of time on them. If you take a look at another video that I did called Breaking the 6-Second Barrier, I'll put it up at the end of this video. Corporate recruiters spend just an average of 6 seconds looking at your resume. When I say average, that means, yeah, some they look at longer, but some they even look at shorter. You can't have them searching stuff. You want to do your resume in a standard format recruiters are used to seeing. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be boring or you can't be the least bit creative in your resume. You can, but you're going to do it through the text, not with pictures or different colors or graphs or a really unique formatting. Now, if we look down at education, now again, you have text here that is different from the rest of the resume. That's a mistake. I already covered that. There's too much bold-facing here. You want to use bold-facing sparingly and uniformly. But here is a mistake that you would think, no way would a recent graduate make it. And I see it all the time. This person, Ali, he didn't say what kind of degree he has. Does he have a bachelor's in arts? Does he have bachelor in science? Is it a master's degree? None of that. So you want to make sure that you look at that closely. Also, I'm often asked the question, should I include my GPA on my resume? Well, that's a tricky question. Look, if it's below a 3, no, you shouldn't put it onto your resume. If it's above a 3, I think you should. Certainly, if it's anywhere near a 3.5 or above, you absolutely should put it on there. Now, that does beg the question, if you don't put it on there, will that corporate recruiter suspect it's not as high as it should be? Well, possibly, but I think you're better off just not putting it on there if it's not a 3 or above. You can always explain it in the interview if it's not as high as it should be for whatever reason that might be. Now, let's take a look at work experience. Now, again, you have different fonts and really drastic different sizes here, which is a problem. But I want to point out the bullets here. Notice this word, I. And also, if you want to look, which we're going to cover later, they say I'm. Ollie says I'm on here. You never want to use first person when you write on your resume. You just don't do it. Also, you want to look at, in terms of the bullets, they're very skinny. I'm going to enlarge this so you can see it. You shouldn't put 3 words in a bullet, okay? You have to beef it up more than that. You're better off doing just 2 bullets than doing 3 where you're just saying work cash register. That doesn't make any sense. Now, conversely, this bullet is way too long. It's just a long run-on sentence. I was responsible for waiting on tables and sweeping out the storeroom, including setting rat traps and disposing of dead rodents. I also did inventory and dressed as a large tomato to attract customers. Look, that's 2 or 3 bullets. You want to try to make your bullets a good, strong sentence long. On that note, you do not put periods at the end of bullets. Now, again, here is something that can't be read by most ATS systems, a graph. Graphs, company logos, school seals, there's no need for it. If it can throw off an ATS, don't put it on there. And it may seem like I'm saying don't be creative. Well, of course, you're going to be creative and interesting in your resume, but you're doing that through text, not through different colors and pictures and emblems. Now, lastly, we're going to look at the sidebar. For a recent grad resume, I just don't see the point in a sidebar. All it does is squeeze the rest of your resume, which is the experience part and the education part, which we're mostly interested in. And in this case, this seems cute, but it's not. It's totally unprofessional. I'm happy, cuddly, adorable, and everyone loves me. Now, obviously, no one would say something like this, but this is usually where a recent grad will put a whole bunch of different skills that they have. And there's nothing wrong with telling about your skills, but it's really a waste of space here. You can clearly say that on the bottom of your resume. You don't need to, have a whole sidebar about it, because you have to remember something. Telling a person you are responsible and a hard worker and have a lot of drive and determination, well, you know what? The recruiter is going to find that out from interviewing you. Now, I can tell you, as a recruiter who's been doing this for over 25 years, I have never looked at a recent graduate's resume, and because they tell me their attributes, that they're driven, they're responsible, I'm going to find that out in an interview. And so is any corporate recruiter. Look, I'm not saying you can't say one or two things like that in a small objective, or maybe even at the bottom of your resume, but you don't need a sidebar to tell it. So just specifically speaking, this resume is a complete nightmare. It won't get parsed correctly by an applicant tracking system. And, a recruiter, or at least any recruiter I know, is not going to spend the time going through something like this. It takes too much time. They're going to be turned off by all the mistakes, or at least all the unusual formatting. And this person's just not going to get anywhere. They're certainly not going to get called in for an interview. So that's the major formatting mistakes that I have seen. And I absolutely caution you not to make these mistakes. You think it's eye-catching. You think it's, oh, this is going to be something that's going to be really different and it's creative and they'll really appreciate it. Trust me, they won't. Okay, so that's our look at the worst resume formatting mistakes you can make, and I encourage you to please avoid those mistakes, all of them, at all costs. You can vary your resume, but you want to keep it within a generally accepted formatted framework. Well, that's it for today. I'm Bill Cicchino. This is Best Job Tips. Please check out my website. There's a lot of free tools on there for job seekers. Until next time.